Welcome, everyone. So this evening, what we are going to do is we have a number of speakers that I've pulled together to talk about the indigenous wisdom and knowledge of this turtle island. My name is Gatna Soham. I'm from the Mohawk territory of Ganawage, which is situated on the south shore of Montreal. But before I get started, we have to understand that when we get together as nations, we have our own treaty protocols and we have certain ways of how we do things. For us, the people of the Longhouse, whenever we get together, someone is asked to say a couple of words to acknowledge all of the things that sustain us. So I'm going to speak in my own language right now. When I get done, I'm going to translate, and then I'll go a little further into why this prophecy gathering is so important and what we hope to accomplish. So negadi jinitu ua wasudade so wadahu sadadu aguegu wat kunuaradu. Yotsanonya disegu aguegu ga idewes ua winizarade. Disegu igere ague yugodak garide. Segu wadu skana jiniji anduanu tunyu. Tanu nono dashat dorate ogadinu jarzi toniot. Neji nono hadowaga ayune atste. Jiniji judaso jinzade jinore uawanizarade. Nedawana dunko yetiknista huza. Se yogut kama haji agwegu jinohodi yogotsta chata winizarage. Etediusterista nahodo. Tagazanyatatu suwado negnu sedo wanigira. Tagazadunkayak segu nyategu kakwa yoguayo. Tanugardhagu nugwadi nene zinigane kudadawaniu segu gardhagu rodidakinuja. Tiniji gardhahere ugwere sua garunda sua yoskats. Nua wagatunde ezo ne ojitangua kudirano de. Nyategu gayo ga ohunzage. Nona dasa tukwaure danu anaga jinhoda gardunyu. Ne zinigane gaeri ni gawerage. So ajeras connected gaeri ziniji yowerare. So ajeras ayugatunde nono gawera satstes. Tanu gaguidene no guadi ni gahawi nono yetisotoga radiguera skan udigetete. Uawinizarade jiniji de yuswate Janua tkara kwinigatne janua yatawatsotus. Segu tiniji royotene suwatia jokinaka garakwa. Asatane nona yogwandas. Nana janigani yukisotya satanaka garakwa. Nona tana no dundari watandi ne ganusesne. Nona andawayatu. Nona radik sagom nagra jinzade. Segu tiniji yogoyotaje. Jiniji de distokurunyu. Nona wasundio wadanda wagaan yoskats. Guadara suya de segu yo guayo do caraniga garge, aí guadiandero ne jero titunizi kagodago. Hono ne tinigane yakan de hune sono. Yoki soto gun kaha. Tano tinihadi tadihas, no do wasere tinigariwes che guadawai ne gono tinzade. Nanioni no do wana duka ne gaeri ni vedge. Tano so wajeres nono Yogwandas, Togatana no Hodon, Yoguadatsan. Ono ne Yogungwe, Nene Yatizu, Zinu de Yadane, Izinut Karuhyadi. Aguegu Tunua Judason. So Nene Zinigane Gajoko Guego, Guegu Oscar, the Wawit Nuni, Nagwatnigura, Danugigo, Nene So Oyera got Sostan Saragoa. Nea Guegu, that's it the Nuarabu. Ono ne. The Yadunzom Nioni. Nona Tanan Hodon the Watarunyu. Ayeti Yarige, Nana Radik Salgoa, Yakan de Hunes, Araku, Nana de Hudikun Sadaje, Nana Ranuha Rodiriwage Nioni. Onagadi Tokadi Nigo Wager Amdagatkawe, Noda the Wana Dunkwa, Nana Honda Gari Wadeko, Ekadina Yok, Nana Guatnigura. So essentially what I said in my own language, some people say, well, it's Mohawk, is that I acknowledged all of us. And I did some of the old treaty protocols that we come in peace, that not only do we come in peace, but we also understand that as men, there's a circle right here, and we're connected to our elder brother, the sun. We're grounded with Mother Earth. And as a result of our connection to the cosmos and that life that started on the other side of the sky, so then we spoke our truth. So what we do then is we acknowledge all of those things in that sacred cycle and web of life that continue to work, from the people to the Mother Earth, to all the waters, to the grasses, to the medicines, to all the plant nation. Then we acknowledge the strawberry, the leader of all the fruit. Then we acknowledge our life supporters, the corn, the beans, the squash. Then the deer, the moose, the caribou. And then we acknowledge all of those forests and all of those trees. And then those birds that are in those trees. And when we finish with this lower world, we look in the upper world now and we acknowledge the four winds, the four directions, the four seasons, the four colors. From there, then what we do is we acknowledge our grandfathers, the thunder beings. They come from the west every spring. They bring that rain so our crops could grow. So we acknowledge our grandfather, the thunder beings, and we thank them. And then now our elder brother, the sun. Our elder brother's sun comes in the east, reaches a midway point, and then goes back in the west. But then we see all of that, of his power, making things grow. And also he sets the path that we're supposed to follow too in our life. We come out of the earth, we reach a midway point, we're all going back into the womb of Mother Earth one day. Tomorrow that sun rises again and we're all rising again. Not in the flesh, but in spirit. That's what our elder brother teaches us, along with all the other things that he does. Then we acknowledge our grandmother, the moon. Our grandmother, the moon, determines when we hold ceremonies, when we plant, the time of the month of women, rising and lower the oceans, all of that work that she still continues to do. And then now we acknowledge all of the stars, all of the star stories, and then the star nation. And how beautiful it is that when we look and we see all dazzling lights. And then now we go into the unseen. We acknowledge all of our ancestors that have come before us. And then those ancestors take us to the first life, women, Yedzizizo, blossoming flower, because she originates from the other side of the blue, through a portal from that ancestral spirit realm. And then she came to this lower world, and then she created all the things that were here, along with her daughter, and then eventually the male energy came to support that. So we acknowledge all of those things in that sacred cycle and web of life. Because in this thing that we do before we do any ceremony, before we hold any councils, before we do any social gatherings, these words that I said in my language help us to understand, who are we? Where do we come from? Why are we here? And where are we going when we leave this place one day? And for us to understand the Great Spirit, we look to the creation of the Great Spirit. The Mother Earth is round, Grandmother Moon is round, the elder brother sun is round. We know that we originate in a place, and we call it in my language, Izinut Garavyadi, the other side of the sky or the other side of the blue. And then we come here for a time, and then we're all going back to our original home. So we know that we are guaranteed life forever. We come to this lower temporal world for a little time because this is walking soil. And this walking earth gives my spirit the ability to give it expression. That I can talk, I can taste, I can dance, I could be happy, I could be sad, all of that. Because when my spirit goes back home, It's not going to have a lot of the things that go on in this physical world because we're going to go back to that source of life, the great creator, the great mystery. And sometimes we refer to it as the great mystery because even though we have a lot of knowledge and wisdom, we still cannot say without a shadow of a doubt that we know everything. So what we do then is we put our collective knowledge together and then we try to understand. But we are given enough that as sure as the sun rises and the sun sets, none of us is getting out of here alive. We're all born to die, but our brother sets a path and reassures us that even though you come out of the earth, you reach a midway point, you're going to set one day, tomorrow, you rise again, but in spirit. And when we understand that, it changes then about how we respect this walking soil. It changes how we interact with our brothers and sisters and all of the people. It changes about how we interact with our mother, the earth, because we know what that we are at her bosom. And from her bosom comes all of that nourishment that we need every day of our life. And then it connects us to our ancestors. So everything is complete. And we are a very insignificant part, but yet we know that we are a small part of the greater whole. And in our language, it tells us very clear. If you ask me my language, who am I? I'm a Ogwehunwe. What does that mean? Ungwe means, well, because of your body suit, you can either be a male or a female. Unwe comes from the root word dinawe, which means forever. So we originate from spirit that gives the spirit the ability to give expression, and then we go back home. So that's who I am in my language. I'm a person that has a spiritual essence that's forever. If you ask me, well, where do we originate from? Well, we come from Izinut Garuyadi. What does that mean? The other side of the sky. If you said, well, who lives there? Well, we call them Garuyagerono. They're sky people, star people, the ancestors. So in our language, all of these things make it where it all comes together and it tells a story that it doesn't do justice in English language. The other thing is when we talk about our clans, we're associated with different bear, wolf, and turtle. But in the language, it says Oniza Dara means clay. What it actually says is it says, which clay are you made out of? And it goes right back to our creation story when we were made. Then when we were made, we talk about family. And in our language, we say akwadzide, zahwadzide. The root word in there is odzide. When you make a fire, you see the smoke, you see the heat, you see the wood, you see the orange. But right at the very bottom, where the wood is being consumed, it's a dark red orange color. That's odzide, that hot coal. So when we talk about akwadzide, odzide, we're talking about that sacred fire that burns in every human being. So when we understand all of this, we see that life is sacred. All human beings are sacred, that the earth, all these things are gifts. And the only thing that we are required to do from our teachings is to sing our sacred songs. So now this is a water drum. There's water in here because with water, then we have all of the trees. And then came all of the animals. We, the two-leggeds, are part of the animal kingdom. And then we came here and we all need that sacred breath. And all of that is held together by a ring, which represents natural law. So this is not only a water drum, it also represents my creation story. Sky Woman leaves the other side of the blue, the other side of the stars, and she follows water and she comes here. Look at your own birth story. Before you were born into this world, your mother's water breaks, the contractions start, you're literally pushed, and we follow the water. So when we put this all together, all we've been instructed to do is that when you acknowledge all of these gifts, you're going to give it through sacred song. So all of us have a belly button. And because we have a belly button, we know who our mother is. We know who our grandmother is. We know who our great grandmother is. And when we follow that link, it takes us all the way back to our first mother, which is Mother Earth. Now, all of us ate today, and whatever you ate came from the plant life. And even if you had meat, those animals still had to eat the plants. So the plants are very important. So the plants, we call them in my language, Asa Nigodenozo, the three sisters, Junhekwa, our life supporters. So we have to connect back. So for the people on this call, I'm just going to help us through our belly buttons with a sacred song to begin to understand that we have to connect back to our sacred mother and love her because she gives us pure unconditional love every day. But yet people are destroying it, they're taking advantage of it, and the future generations are in peril now. So we have to bring our collective knowledge as Oglahoma people, people of this great turtle island, North, Central, and South America, and talk about the indigenous wisdom of this land. So that being said, I'm just going to sing one little verse about the sacred vibration to hopefully tie us back to Mother and Everton in the sacred cycle and web of life. I'm going to start out with 4 beats to acknowledge 4 directions, 4 colors, 4 seasons. This was a snapping turtle. It represents Turtle Island. But when we acknowledge the Great Spirit, we sing this, and we have our sacred songs for that. Because Everton is about song and dance, dancing to life, dancing to creation. And that's what our sacred ceremonies and songs are all about. And we're lucky that in 2021, that in my community, we still have our language, we still have our ceremonies, we still have our songs, we still have our dances, that we ask creation and all of these things that sustain us every day to continue to do their work, because we need the sun, we need the plants, we need the rain, we need the thunder beings, we need each other. Because if some of those things were all gone, life would not be good for us. So we have to put our collective minds together now and ask ourselves, what could we do? So now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that has been happening, about why this is coming about. Because of the monetary system, because of, we have to participate in the capitalist society. There's always problems because we want to remain the old way, but then we have all of this progress. And what happened on May 1st of 1990, 2 Mohawk men lost their lives because Mohawks started to go to war with each other. When that incident happened, I just coincidentally happened to be on Six Nations Reserve. And I was talking to one of the chiefs, and we were putting our minds together to see what we could do. So he says, okay, I'm going to call a meeting. So he called a meeting, and some of the leadership, we got together and we said, what could we do? Because we also have a government, and the government is known as the 5 Nations Longhouse Confederacy. And we make treaties with the Dutch, with the French, with the British, and the United States. Anyway, what happened was we decided we would call this meeting because this peacemaker, this prophet of ours, said that if we were ever reduced to poverty and disgrace because of war and conflict, that we would do this ceremony and call for his return. So on Sunday morning, May the 6th of 1990, a group of us traveled to Taindenega because that's where the peacemaker was born, and we evoked this ceremony to call for his intervention. And the intervention happened. And there's many things of spiritual intervention that happened right across this Turtle Island. Some of the major things that happened is one of our spiritual leaders took a group of Mohawks back into the Mohawk Valley. There was a white buffalo that was born. And for the Lakota people, that started to fulfill that prophecy. There was many things that started to happen because here in my community, there's a mayor from a community where he wanted to expand his golf course from a 9-hole to a 18-hole. And in expanding that golf course, he was going to upset our burial grounds of our ancestors and people that died in recent times and days. But his attitude was that prevailing attitude, that for some reason, you know, the settlers and the people that came to this, they think that they're going to subject us and that they're above us. Anyway, it ended up in this whole 78-day standoff with Canada and the province because our people stood up. But anyway, and a lot of people say that 1990 was the watershed that caused a lot of this right across Turtle Island for people now to pick up their languages, pick up their ceremonies, pick up their identity, you know, and start to reawaken about these times that we are in. So we had many meetings. In 6 nations, we brought elders from all over. Hopi, Navajo, Cree, Ojibwe, even the Kogi came up. And we talked about these times that we are in. And then through some of the sacred ceremony we were doing, the ancestors, through ceremony said that we have to now call on the horsepower. And the horses have to start in the west where our grandfather, the thunder beings, live. And they have to come across this Turtle Island to begin wiping the tears of the 7th generation and begin healing the Mother Earth. And those horses started in Vernon, British Columbia, and they arrived on 6 nations on August 27 of 2004. Then we had a Youth and Elder Summit, and then there was a proclamation that was read. And then the youth did a relay run, and they took that message to the United Nations in New York. And then another thing that happened was on July 22nd, 1999, a real good dear mother of mine on 6 nations, she called me up, she says, Kevin, you got to get over here. I says, why? She says, you're not going to believe this. There's crop circles in Clint King's backyard. And I didn't believe that crop circles at the time. Because I said, oh, I think somebody just took a piece of string with a wood and knocked it down. Well, she says, if you come out here, you can get in a plane. We're going to look at it from the air. But I didn't go. Anyways, they went. But when that message was done, and if you look at the logo for this conference, you see there's a jawbone from a buffalo, and it's done to scale the message that came from the Star people, the Star Nation. So we know that things are all coalescing and that the indigenous spiritual wisdom of this land is coming together. And we have to bring this knowledge to the forefront, because if not, our Earth Mother, if she decides to discipline us, she has no mercy. She has pure love for us every day. But there's things now that are telling us that we better be careful. There's more hurricanes, there's more tornadoes, there's more earthquakes, there's droughts. California was burning, Australia was burning, the oceans are starting to rise. All kinds of stuff are starting to happen now. And we better start asking ourselves, what is it that we can do different? And I say that we all need to start to see different. We all need to start to hear different. We all need to start to speak different. And because of global warming and climate change, we all better start to do and work different if those future generations coming are going to inherit a happy, safe, clean, beautiful, peaceful home. So I work at FNTI, I'm the Director of Indigenous Knowledge and Quality Learning. And when we came back from our so-called Christmas vacation, we started to do some visioning. And a suggestion was made that maybe we should look at a 10-year strategic plan. And I remember just over 2 years ago, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they put out a report. And that report says that we have about 12 years, give or take, to start to make some systematic changes on many levels. Because global warming is real, the damage that we're doing to the earth is real, and we have to start taking this serious. So 2 years have already gone by, so we have 10 years. So then what I said is, this is my work plan for this year. So I engaged my government, the Six Nations Longhouse government, and we brought our knowledge keepers together about prophecy. That was step one. Now we're doing step two. We're bringing some of our knowledge keepers from the north to the south, to the east and the west, from North, Central, and South America. And this is what we're doing this weekend. That's step two. Step three is that now, because we are in a treaty relationship, everybody that immigrated to this land from the old country, our people, my government made a treaty. And it says, this is us in our canoe, this is you in your ship. We're supposed to be guided by three principles of peace, friendship, and respect. And in between the canoe and the big ship with sails are three beads again: peace, friendship, and respect. And we're supposed to travel this river of life like this, but we all know what happened. But now we're saying that we have to resurrect up using peace, love, and try to get the people that came to this land to understand that we have to do things different. So step three of what I'm working on is to take the best scientists, the best visionaries from the big ship with sails and ask them, okay, tell us what you know. And then step four is going to be, all right, let's take all of our best from our canoe. Let's take the best from the big ship with sails and let's agree now on some goals, on some objectives, and then some recommendations that we could put out to every level of government, from local, municipal, provincial, state, federal, and beyond, with the indigenous spiritual wisdom of this turtle island that is part of that, because for too long, it's never been validated. You know, multinational corporations, the monetary system, all they think about is making money at the end of the day. But when everything is all said and done, we cannot eat money. What is sustaining us is the Mother Earth. So we have to change our relationship in what we're doing. So hopefully we can come up with solutions and recommendations about how we can begin to curb this problem that is man-made, using the indigenous knowledge of Turtle Island, so that together we can make it better for those future generations that are coming. So with that, I'm now gonna end. We have through this weekend of tonight and tomorrow and Sunday, we have 13 speakers. You can go and you can look on the web page that you came on, and it says speakers, and there's a schedule. So all the speakers are in there. You can see their bios, read everything about who they are, where they're from. So now with that, it's 6 o'clock, and now we're going to listen to Marco. You can read his bio, and he's going to now be speaking in Spanish, and it's going to be done through a translator. And we will go until 7:30, and then we'll take a little intermission, and then we'll resume at 7:45 with Roberto. Yawakoa. Thank you.
Está cayendo una tormenta eléctrica y se fue la energía eléctrica. No sé si me escuchan. No sé si me escuchan, pero acá está cayendo ahorita una tormenta enorme con granizo, la lluvia del cielo, la bendita lluvia me está cayendo.
Right now I'm having a pretty bad storm. That's why I don't have
Hello,
electricity.
anybody can hear Marco? Is a storm in there, so it's raining hard. So no one, he doesn't know if someone is hearing him. He's having a power troubles.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Acá está cayendo una tormenta bastante fuerte. No sé
Here where I am is raining. It's raining really hard. I don't know if someone can hear me.
Bueno, no sé si me escuchan, pero les quiero decir
Well,
una feliz tarde.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm gonna tell you.
Es día precisamente de que nos cae la bendita lluvia, el agua del cielo, bendita agua.
Today is a day that the rain is coming out and it's a bless for us. It's a bless from our mother nature. And it's a bless for us because we can have food, everything is growing out, everything is green because of the mother nature and her rain. This is one of the knowledge that our grandfathers let us, and they tell us that we're going to be growing with the rain, with the river, with the bamboo tree, because we're their sons, their grandsons, because we're part of the messenger Mayans of harmony and peace of all times. Also in these days, in this day particularly, I want to remind you that we're living of the great count of the great circle. We are at the date 30 Vactum, All Vactum, 11 Tum, 11 King. It means that we are at 1,872,000 days after the counting 3,101 days. And the sacred march, like I used to say, there is this messenger that bring us the water as the same as our grandparents did. Because in these days we can get all the messages, all the divine messages and natural messages. Because we're always asking for creativity. And in this day, and the rain is with us. And in these days, it works to cure, to resolve family problems. And it's this invisible force that controls all the gravity in Earth. And this is because it's a principle that in old days, our grandparents teach us. And it's a principle of the cosmovision, so we can continue what to do in this Mayan world. So these are our principles. I want to tell you, my origin is Quechua. My My father was from Amtera Pass region, so I have some of my blood Quechua. I don't speak the Quechua language, but I speak Spanish. But this gives me is allowing me to walk in different places, know a lot of people, and walk with a lot of people in this walk in this path. The Mayan, I received the mission that I swear to the sacred fire and for my server from the word of our grandfathers so we can go on. Those marvelous teachings that they led us, a lot of codices in stone or they're written down in paper and we can find it in a lot of places. Like the Dresden Code, the one that is in Valdivia, in Teresian Code, and a lot of codes the Mayan ladies all these tips. So we can today, in this day, in the day 13 point or point 11 point, we can continue with this teaching with them. And they were really clear in the sacred book of Pavu. They say their time was here. That everything that they need to teach us, they did. And now we, and our generations, with our responsibility, continue the mission of them, continue the teaching, continuing with the harmony, the peace, the easy, including to everybody with the cosmovision. And what is cosmovision? Is the respect that all of us we have to have for everything that is around us. We respect the universe, we respect the plants, we respect the animals, we respect the humans, we respect everything so we can coexist in this light, in this marvelous clarity that the Creator leaves us. That's really important. That's part of all these greatest messages that the elders leave us, and that the way I tell you, the light is already back. And I'm going to continue with exposition so we can like each other. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank for the creator, to the constructor, to the creator of the universe, from everything for the humanity, from the world. Thank you for all of you that you invite me to be here, that I can talk to you by this media, for this technology that is part of this moment. And that we still have I cannot hear the Tat Marco. Yeah, something is going on with the signal.
Pues bien, entonces les decía
Okay. So we're going to continue with this moment because I'm not sure if someone is listening to me or not. The blessed rain is coming from the sky and it take off the energy. But I'm really happy with the creator and with you because I can share with you. I'm from Guatemala, Shimileo, Shushka, how I am. It means being father and mother in the spirituality. It is a Mayan spirituality guide complete. That is, my mission is to take all these measures to remind the moment that we are. In this way, we can do whatever we do in the high seasons until the south lands. It is also part of a prophecy that we have from our grandfathers. It says the eagle north and eagle south are going to be together with the center eagle, and that's marvelous that I can share with you, like I say, like this moment. So I can tell you all principles as that Chuscao that I am, that where we going, where we doing this, how we doing. All is this part of the knowledge of the Mayan knowledge. They're all ancestors, and we still live in it. It's still vigent. And how is it? It's about the old ladies, old men and women, Mayans, from the forests and the jungles. All this knowledge is based in the life systems from the originals. It is talks that they practices from the whole story. All ancestors, they keep all the knowledge about how to coexist and keep the knowledge about the balance, the harmony with everything. And when you break the whole thing, the consequences are really tragic. And the consequences are for everybody, for all the humanity, for the whole population, for all the people that is coexisting, like animals, plants. And in that sense of that convivence, all our original towns, you cannot understand as a resource or objects, because if you do it as a sense, all there is around this is with life. Everything is made up of elements for commentaries. The human being is not earth, it's not soul, it's not only the life, it's not the creator of life. That's why the thoughts and practice of our grandfathers and grandmothers about all the way we're living together, they always have questions. They make us think twice. How is the organization about all these knowledge Mayan? You can have a lot of interpretations. And remember, because all the knowledge has been saved by word from generations and from all towns and nations that it put together Guatemala and all these nations. We understand that Mam Nation has their own interpretation like all the rest of the nations. Every nation has a different interpretation. Everyone has a different interpretation. And this should be a process of understanding between everybody, between the heart from the sky and heart from the earth. They talk about the space, energy, and bodies moving. These elements that they have the cosmovision, the thoughts, the concepts, practices, and symbols that they put together the cosmovision. When they talk about symbols, we think about, and then we understand that they always let us the writings. The writings that until today we take with us. That is like that in this day. This writing is from Cholkis Imosh, and it represents this rain that is coming down from the sky. In the top says Hunahishmosh, and down in the bottom is 11 mosh. So like I say, that everything that they live, it is part of a structure that is, and then we put together in the Maya because vision. And how can we put it together, and how we can explain to everybody and understand it? Our grandfather says that the dimensions are given in macrocosmos, that is the totally, and microcosmos. They used to say the macrocosmos, you can find an ahau, kashbala, ishke, and ishmukane. And these beings are related in their walk with the cosmos. They're walking there. But then those dimensions, they have elements. And those elements are the father sun, the mother moon, and our mother earth. And the microcosmos is a synthesis of relationships between beings that live in different dimensions. Saying in other words, like in temporal spatial, that they coexist and complete in the cosmos, and the element that it can do it is the Rahawal. They also know it like Hassan Nawal or Cholchek. That is what I was showing earlier. In this way, is how they put together the Maya knowledge. How they do it in these days. In these days, we can do it through dialogue. With who we have these dialogues? With the people who guide us in the way. And who is the people that guide us? Grandmothers and grandfathers. This is really punctual from the conservation point of view, because we understand that the human being, so it can be a grandfather or grandmother, it has to go through 4 steps, Cahill, 4 steps. And everything gets related from the fourth. Everything in the Mayan cosmovision has the sense of the four. We have 4 colors that represents the colors of the humanity. It represents the food, the seals, and it represents the 4 directions. The red is where the sun's burn, is the energy. The black is where the sun goes heat, it is the break. The yellow is where the water burns, and the white is where the wind burns, and is to purify. So, like I say, so you can, if someone can be grandmother or grandfather, they have to go through the 4 ages of the Maya. I mean, they burn from 0 to 12 years old, from 13 years old to 25 years old, from 26 to 43, and from 44 to 56 years old. It's 365 days, and they go together with the moon. That is of 73 for 360, and equals, it's all math from all our ancestors, that they start from 0. So we know that we have this way to interpret, to feeling, to think, to react. There are ancestors, I mean, for our roots and origins. They have made how they relate from with the universe. The understanding of the Maya culture, they go with the story, with the society, the cosmos, and the physical universe. That's why we interpret the creation and the interpretation of the Maya a connection with the ancestors, as everything went with the definition of species and functions, and establishes of principles of the interrelationship with the human beings. They come here, they born, they create. In this way, this is the way that we interpret the existence of the Maya culture from the established. At the moment of the universe come out in the creation and the people who habitated, it is the same way of the culture Maya, how they put it, how you get here, how you live here, and how you go away from this universe. So you can understand the culture. For the culture Maya or the Maya cosmovision, it's not about reading, it's not about studying all these lords. It's not about looking for about the accidental ideas. It's more about when we go to these spaces, when we integrate with respect in this environment, and we use all this language about all these cultures, they keep to be in touch with the universe, which they are in the way they do all their activities, the way they dress, the way they do their things. Also, we recreate in the old sacred ceremonies, that is that memory, endless memory of a Tao sacred circle of the time. Every ceremony that we do, we are recreated the creation moment. When Tepehuacumax, they create and they purify the water so you can have soil, that you can have animals. Those are really sacred words that we have knowledge as a cosmovision knowledge. That means that we are the face of the corn, the conscience of the corn. We're son and daughters of the grandmother moon and the grandfather sun. We're conscious of the sun and the moon. We are son and daughters of the mother earth. This that I have said is so you can understand that the universe beings, they're not isolated, they're ancient spirits of what about the person is. That is also about the relationship about brothers, guides, progenitors. So the cosmovision could be defined really easy. It's as a fact history of the natural living, cosmological and social, that has been development for all the long periods. As this historical event is integrated and complementary. Complementarity is Sakahil. It is dynamic and reflected in a different social cosmic spaces. Complexity of vision, they oriented the few places where the human being has been. How they been oriented about the people he's coexisting in these days? As cosmogonic, politic, social, ritual, and artistic. This graphic that I show you now, it is interrelationship between the beings and the universe. It is a great circle that is in constant movement. In the center, we have the cosmovision. Then we have the cosmos at the top. At the left, there is the plants, animals, beings, human beings, and Earth, Mother Earth. But everything is together. We're all united in this cosmovision. We're not apart from each other. We're not apart from the creation. Not as Mayabs, we are extraordinary beings and apart from the whole convivence. For the opposite, we are the first that we're asking for a brotherhood, for equality, for a reality where we can take all the principles that our grandfathers leave us, of that way to live in peace, that we don't feel hate, that we don't have angry, envy, and that for the opposite, we can be grateful with the creator or for everything. That's really important because for us and for everyday living is what it gets motivated us to go on with these teachings. For all these development, we have basic elements that integrate our cosmovision. All these elements that integrates our cosmovision, that they are at the end what it moves us. That is where we wanted to begin, to start. We start our story at the left. We have rights from the mother nature and our own rights. We walk to the other side and we have a space. And then we go up and then we can say that we can have our identity. That's our cosmovision, Maya cosmovision with principles. Everything that we have made, everything that we do, it always has been. So we can understand. So we can understand our part of our grandparents. That it was to share, and through the time we can feel grateful with the matter of life, grateful with the elements that they walk with us, they stay with us. Fire, earth, water, air. Those elements, they're always present with us in all our daily living, with all our actions in every day. So what we always want to do from the Chukulan culture, that there are ceremonies so we can share and like. You can see in this image from the 12th slide, you can see the materials that they can use to turn on the sacred fire. That is candles, ocote, cacao, ocote plant, romero plant. Those are all the natural things that we use. And then we have the sacred circle. It is the circle that it gives us the going and back all the time. Today we are in March, tomorrow in Kapla week. Yesterday we were in the Huhaftum. And then every cardinal point, every movement, where they are the 4 cardinal points, 4 directions, is the representation that is in codes. And our grandparents, they live so we can get oriented. At the top, bottom where they say directions, we have the representation of the west. Sorry, the east. The east is where they born the sun. At the bottom and the opposite is the Occident, the west, where the sun gets high. At the right, we have the south, where the sun gets low. And then we have the center, where the sun gets high. And then we have the center, where the sun gets low. And then we have the center, where the sun gets high. And then we have the center, where the sun gets low. And then we have the center, where the sun gets high. And then we have the center, where the sun gets low. And then we have the center, where the sun gets high. And then we have the center, where the sun gets low. And then we have the center, where the sun gets high. And then we have the center, where the sun gets low. And then we have the center, where the sun gets high. And then we have the center, where the sun gets low. And then we have the center, where the sun gets high. And then we have the center, where the sun gets low. And then we have the center, where the sun gets high. And then we have the center, where the sun gets low. And then we have the center, where the sun gets high. And then we have the center, where the sun gets low. And then we have the center, where the sun gets high. And then we have the center, where the sun gets low. with the mother water, and the opposite is the north. And in this fire ceremony, we always try to like with instruments, like instruments that have been made with natural materials. Is really important because the cosmovision is telling us and is calling us also. And we have to have our natural instruments. Everything that we do, everything that we like, we have the flutes of bone, these flutes that when we flow, they make this sound and it's really likable for the environment, for the heart of the sun, the heart of the sky, the heart of the earth, the heart of the water, the heart of the wind. That's really natural. When we in these days we have this hushkak and hukushuleo. This is this so in this way, every one of us, we always have understand us and manages with what our grandparents leave us. The mostly of the all instruments they're made in base of codes. There, we are not we're not making an instrument and making it up. We always try to like, and we know that we have liked to our Mother Earth with the food that she brings us. We always were descended to a prophet that they have guided us from the most close people to the most far away prophets. We have a lot of prophets, and also have we have the four directions, but it's really important the center because of the center of the four colors that we got identified to the Maya nations. For all these four colors that you can see, we have the red with the blue, that is the sky heart with the side of the west, or what we call east. And we have the black with the green, that is the Mother Earth, and there is the west. That for us is really important in everything that we do. And also, I was telling you that we have this principle that is in the code, in the code Dresden in the 74 page that we can see in the slide 15. That code talk about that we're living, the age of the after age of what this happened. What you can see in there, in that code, it was the great watering that it happens in our planet, the flood. That was the Muhammad mother, and is giving water to the earth. And from the sky is coming down the rain. And it's really important, this photograph or the interpretation that we can have. There is a planet conjunctions in the top of the code. A lot of archaeologists, they have tried to interpret it, but also as a guide, we also have our own interpretations because we have the voice of our parents, because we have the origin of each Toltec. We know that each Toltec is together with the Rahawal. You can see at the top of the side left in the 15th side, you can see Venus planet. Next to it is Marte. Next to it is Mercury and Jupiter at the end. Like I say, so what was that all that flood? Because the Batson Canil in Venus, Ahi and Kumen in Mars, Kawaldi and Aku in Mercury, and Shikin and Kan in Mercury and Jupiter, they have the great flood. And why happened this? That's the right question. The prophecy, what our grandparents tell us and is writing down, is for that, so we can change. So we don't have yet that selfish way that we take the life in these days. In the graphic down in the right, you can see there is a lot of stuff, a lot of materials. And the bow, the smoke that you can see in there, it is from the incense. We're finished to do the cleaning, to give ourselves really clean. It is not just one person. You can see there is a lot of people. We're integrated together. That's the really important thing about making a shuklim, that we're not alone. We're not lonely. And what do we do? What do we do with these fires, this secret fire? Why we do it this way? Because it's what is our ancestors they give us through the time. This grateful that we kiss when we kiss to the Mother Earth. That teaching to our sons to take care of the plants, to take care of the environment, because this is the way we're gonna reborn from the corn. This way that are the first parents, our grandparents, the first blow of air of life. This is the way how we go on in this ceremony, in each sukulim. That's why we talk about the sakabal, that is going to be in 2 days from now, is what it led us to live in couple. In this couple, to have present that we have like a real long counting, that we can come back to ourselves and we can learn how to respect to our Mother Earth, so everything that is around us, because this is the only way that we're going to respect our nights and to our Mother Moon. And we're also going to respect to our grandparents, grandmother and grandfather. And we're also grateful for the rain and everything that it rain gave us to us, to the house for our family. And at the bottom of the left, you can see another made ceremonial. This one represents the 4 directions. Is the Nawal of the tea. And it says that in the book that they let us write it down, they came out after a place that it can cross 4 ways. The white path, blue path, black path, and yellow path. They came from the sacred fire, and they come back with this message. And in the Maya ceremony, well, we always appreciated all those paths that they teach us, and these paths take us to somewhere in our life. And we always have the good paths, that we have flat paths, and the community have peace, and they can be happy between each other. That's a teaching that our great parents leave us, and definitely it's definitely what you can see at the right of your screen is another symbol that you can that represents the four paths. Because these four paths is the four ways that we walk in in the Mother Earth. We walk east, west, north, and south. So where we can be protected in this path exists the path, the higher path that is also four directions, and that is also represents each direction. That is just is not the way that we see in this path. We can see that the superior protectors, they coming from the north, they go to the rest, and then they go to the nutrition path, and then they go to this endless circle. And then our being for when we come, those are until we come back from the place we come, just like the way they say, we came to this world to do a mission, and we come back to wait to the next mission. But for this to happen, we have to walk in peace, taking good words, clear thoughts, respect to each other, and that is this living exactly the way they have. If not, how we can see all these marvelous constructions from the high lands into the south lands, because none of us has a Maya. If you go to Mesoamerica, those are the only one who has the knowledge. It is true when they say it was in the stone what is coming according with the principles of them, but also with the brothers of the north, that we still have this harmony when they were living together. And regretfully and sadly, when they came from the other part of the ocean, that is the way they appear in the Chilamalan book, and it's really clear that they say that the other side of the ocean they will come riding in horses with fire objects. We, the Mayas, the today Mayas, our own mission is to be a messengers of health. And for some way, or this, in some way, whoever make damage to our ancestors, these days, they just step back and we can have the same equality that we all deserve. We have a marvelous land full of riches, from the highest lands, from the calm snow until the south lands. There you could also can see the snow. Why our continent, America, we can we can get we can get under what they dream. A fertile land full of easy, get away from selfish and hate. And we always say, and we're always going to repeat, because we'll always be grateful. And we're still grateful every time. Just the way that I'm doing now in this moment, I say to the How Father, Ushkag, to the Ukushuleo, I have done all this. I move my hands. I move my thoughts. That always is for him. Everything that I have right, everything that I have known, everything that I have developed, because it's for him. And his name is writing down in the sky in the Rushha. That's why I asked him that in my hands here it stays his name recorded. It stays in my mind, it stays in my heart. That's why I always have told him that his majestic name in the universe. Please, forbidding there is not lies in his mouth, in his mind, or in his being, because every name that is in the sky, it was our grandparents. And in the celestial palace there, where they watch, and this is where also come the marvelous experience that they let us, the Milky Way that is in the sky, because we're coming from there and we're going to come back to there. That's the way they say. And they also let us that we follow to Venus with her 584 spins, because it's a marvelous energy. I already told you. The Venus has Cholchija. That's Camille. The Pats. It is a continuum of a life. It's a marvelous and majestic that in the origins, the patch says that the creator made in front of a lot of people their play for everybody. And in the canal is where he gave us the search seed, the corn, so we can have that strength. But also they tell us in the canal, the Chuminal, the Venus star, because her light is clarity, is thoughts, pure thoughts that brings all memories that we all have and we have to remind. There is one wall that is in Petén area in the 19 slide that they moved from San Bartolo, Petén, Guatemala, is from Luis Echeverria, artist, in 2012, and it's really clear. It says that we're sons and daughters from the corn. We have her heritage in our blood. Their origins, because we have made from the sacred Ishim, the sacred corn. We're part of the earth. We came from it, and we will come back to it. These are just our bodies, because our spirit, it will evergreen and we grow old. It will walk in the water. It will walk it will be in the wind. It will be in the bird sing. It will be in the blood and the earth of all animals. And this way too, in all the food, all the sacred food. This is what we made. And we always watch to the sky because their signs are there. From there, all our grandparents, they watch all the information there. How? Maybe is the question today. How they can identify the planets, how they could. But easily is what we understand today when we just lose the materialism we watch. That even after all the movement of the earth, the earthquakes, the hurricanes, of the torrents, everything that it can have the change climate, all these structures, they're still on foot, and a lot they're still safe from the Mother Earth because it's not their time to come up to light. But it is a time that we today, in the slide 20, you can see that ceremony at the right, that it was made on It was made on Canada land in Mohawk territory. We give some Maya mission, and a lot of people, they're walking inside of that knowledge. There's another one that they have gone to another dimensions, but mm, we know that we always going to be keep growing because we're messengers and we take every messages that they leave us. And also the sacred corn that is really nutritive source that we always have a communication, a dialogue. We're always given to take off the messages through all our grandparents leave us. We always with someone, we always have a companion, a figure that represents what they have in stone or that you can see, that I can share with you, is the head of a Balam, of a jaguar. That also they led us the prophecies. The Pakabutan lead us in the child. Everything that is a course, everything that we can see through the energy of this marvelous stone that is angle bone of the Mother Earth. That everything has contained in there, everything has a reason. It has size, 7 sides. And in this way, we have the parts that give us energy to level our bodies. We don't need any synthetic. We don't need to beat up to our Mother Earth. To the opposite, if she's still giving us all the plants, all the natural things that it take care of us, that it can fix everything. The disease is a state that is calling from our body. We need to keep the balance. We need to keep the clarity. We need to keep the happiness. That everything gonna be for our wellness, for our life, our existence. This way, we're gonna be grateful with the Creator, the whole powerful, that is the one that gave us the majestic of the Mother Earth. We can see the Father Sun, we can see the Mother Water, the brother forest, we can see the brother tree, we can hear a brother bird. This is the way we have to continue being happy instead of all the difficulty that we can have. But that's why we are. That's why we are, to guide us, to take care of us, to protect us. It will only be available through the sacred ceremonies, the singing, through the all that each one can develop it of the places that they are, and made a brotherhood. This is really important because this is what we're doing, allow us to make a brotherhood, but not only with America. Of course, we have a brotherhood with Europe, with Asia, with the whole world, because in this flag, in these colors, our grandparents, they say that it was the red people, the yellow people, the black people, the white people. And then this is what we have to see today, this message that we all have, the stellar's messages and the Kawak. We have all these messages from the sky, from the heaven. And we also from the sacred chai, and through all their writings that they let us, hearing all the time to our grandparents, to our elders, to not to forget where we come from, because we know where we are and where we're going to. This is the message that I have for you today. I don't know if someone wants to make a question, something that someone wants to add.
We're just gonna have a second here to see if there's any questions. I think we're also waiting for Kevin to unmute his microphone. Just give us a second here.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. How much time do we have? We still have a half an hour. I guess probably the best thing to do then, I don't see any questions on the side. Maybe I'll just fill in then for that half hour, talking about, you know, the significance and the importance of all of this. Maybe, you know, just to recap some of the things that I've seen. One thing that we know for sure is that when we look at the indigenous wisdom of Turtle Island, there's a common denominator. And the common denominator is we all understand that we're connected to corn. You know, in our creation story, we talk about our life supporters, the corn, the beans, and the squash. So it says that the corn came from the breast of the Mother Earth. And understandably so, because corn was our main staple. It says that the beans came from her fingers. And the squash and the pumpkins came from her navel, from her belly button area. And when we look at these things, so what is the connection and how does it make sense? Well, when we plant our onahagara, which is our own corn, we have a ceremony that we call green corn, because the green the corn is when you break the kernel, it still has milk in it before it, you know, it gets hard, it turns to starch. And just like a little baby that comes into the world, a little baby requires the nourishment, the milk from the mother. So for us, it tells that story, that ties it to the breast of Earth Mother. Then our fingers. So sometimes you look at fingers and it looks like where the joints are, and when you look at some of the beans, it almost looks like that's where the joint would be. When we look at the pumpkins and the squash, they start out as a seed. It grows roots and shoots. Then it leaves. Then eventually you get a flower. The bees pollinate the flower, and then we get the pumpkins and the squash. That's the same thing with us. We start out as a seed. We're connected to our mothers through the umbilical cord. And then when time is right, when we were ripe, and then we were brought into this world. We talk about how we connect with the cosmos. We talk about our sacred tobacco. And it says that tobacco comes from her body, the head. So why? Well, because the head holds the brain. And in the brain are all the thoughts. And what is thoughts? It's vibration, it's sacred energy. And all of this is all part of that. So when we communicate, we use that sacred tobacco. We talk about the heart of the Mother Earth. So for us up here, we talk about the strawberry, because the strawberry sometimes has the shape of a heart. It's red. And it's the first fruit for us up here in the north. So it's very important because we were told in the teachings, it says that when you see the strawberry, that is the first fruit, then that'll be the sign from the cosmos and the spirits that you don't have to worry that your raspberries, your corn, your beans, your squash, your potatoes, your leeks, your lettuce, your tomatoes, all of those other things will come to be. So that'll be the sign that you will know that your mind could be assured that those things will grow. And then come the harvest time, we can store our food for another year. But in the prophecy, it says there's going to come a day in the future that you're not going to find a strawberry because of all of this progress of everything that is getting out of balance now. And it says when you come to that time that you don't see the strawberry, your mind is going to be troubled. Because now there's no guarantee that these foods are going to be. And we're not talking about the big strawberries that you can go and you buy in a store. They're this big. We're talking about the little strawberries, Gatnium dessa, the little small fruit that's about the size of my little fingernail here. Because they grow wild all over. But it says when that time will come, that what the people will do then is that they will gather the strawberry leaves, some of the stems and the roots, and we can boil that up and even eat some of that too. So we're in these times where some of the indigenous knowledge and wisdom is all coming now to fruition. And not to say that we haven't tried to talk to governments to get them to understand how we think, how we believe, how we understand. But there's always been this attitude or this thinking that, they don't have to listen to it. So now we're getting what we're getting. And we're getting at a time now where we have to listen to it. Because if we stay on the trajectory that we are on, the scientists, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, all the different people that are studying the natural world are getting the signs, and the signs are clear. So as two-leggeds, as human beings, we got to ask ourselves, what do we want? Do we want to stop all of this destruction and return this land back to how it was when it was given to our ancestors, where you can go to any stream and drink it, where there was no pollution, there was no garbage, and we lived a more simple life? Because as we move forward into the future, we're all going to have to understand that less is more. We can't keep consuming and consuming because the natural world, the sources of life are dwindling. And then it's going to get scarce. And then if we keep taking, then it'll be no more. Just like, when things became extinct. We can look back and how many animals was there here that are gone now. They talk about the dodo bird. They talk about the passenger pigeons. They used to be so plentiful that it says they would block out the sun. The trees used to be so huge that when we hear the old stories of what they talk about and we look around today, it's almost hard to fathom that there were trees so huge that it'll take about 5 or 6 people to put their arms together to make a circle around the tree. We look at all of those buffalo, millions and millions of buffalo that roamed the plains. They were almost all slaughtered. So these are the times that we are in. And then all the messages that are coming in through the power of dreams. You know, we know that the dreams is how we also connect with our ancestors. They tell us about the past. They tell us about now. They tell us about the future. So it's up to us. And I hope that this gathering that I helped to coordinate and pull together with all these knowledge keepers, that the people that are listening out there now on YouTube, because this is going anywhere and everywhere around the world, people want to listen, that we try to understand about our common humanity. We only have one mother. And it doesn't matter how much people think that they're going to have a Skylab and that they're going to go up there and do all this different kinds of stuff. It ain't going to happen. It'll happen for a short time, but it ain't going to go on because there's no other place that we could live. This is the place. So I'm happy that in spite of it all, you know, that we have these teachings. I was impressed, you know, with some of the things that that Marco was talking about, the pictures that he showed. And as you can see, with all the things that I started when I kind of did the introduction and the greeting to welcome everyone, and some of the things that Marco talked about, you can see the connections about this knowledge and how beautiful it is and how simple it is. And all it asks that as much as possible that we try to exude love. Love for the body, first of all. You know, respect this, treat it well. Because this is just walking soil, that's all it is. This is walking earth. And when we die, we're going back to earth. So while we're alive, we should understand that we are the earth. We're the eyes of the earth, we're the ears of the earth, we're the voice of the earth. And we should work in communion with Mother Earth. And the best way to work in communion is to dance. Hamba hibaya, hamba asha, yo yanere, yo yanere. And we dance all of these sacred songs to creation. We know that on a Sunday is the solstice. So, like your people in Central America, you do ceremony for the sun. We are going to do the same thing on Sunday. Not me, because I'm coordinating this, but the rest of my people, we acknowledge that sun because he's reaching the height of his strength. Because now we know that, you know, we're going to start going back now toward the winter solstice, and the days will start to get shorter again. But it's all part and parcel of that cycle of life. So yeah, so you know, that's very important that we do those songs and we acknowledge the sun. Because imagine if all of a sudden the sun went blink. Well, what would happen? There'd be no more light. We go into darkness just like this. Everything would start to freeze up and all life would perish. So the only thing that we do is we say to our elder brother son, we say, thank you, elder brother. Keep on doing your work. Keep on shining because we need you. And then what do? We do ceremony, we sing, we dance, and we acknowledge that the sun keep doing his work. So it's an acknowledgement, just like us as a human being. So when somebody comes up to you and they say, oh, I didn't see you for a long time and I miss you and I love you and I'm so happy to see you. Or if it was your birthday and somebody came and they acknowledge you, or whatever. You know, people just came up to you and say, you're so handsome or you're so beautiful. They give you a compliment. So what does that do? It makes your spirit feel nice, makes you feel good. So what we say is that all of those things have a spirit. They have a sacred energy. So when we acknowledge them and when we give them offerings, all of those things feel good too, because we're all part of that sacred energy. You know, right now, all of us, our lungs are expanding and contracting. All of us, our heart muscle is expanding and contracting. All of us, the blood is circulating in our body. All of us see when the snow comes and the snow goes. Well, except for you in Central and South America, you don't get no snow. But for us, the snow comes and the snow goes. The ocean comes up and the ocean comes down. And when we hit this stick on that drum, that skin goes down and up. So all of us are all participating in the sacred dance of life. Whether we see it, whether we believe it or not, doesn't matter, because this is natural law. Everything is held together by a ring, and ring is natural law. Natural law says this is how it is. And human beings, you can't change it. You're one little small part of it, but you're still part of that wholeness. So the sacred dance of life, that sacred vibration. And when we understand that sacred vibration and we go within ourselves, then we see, and we should anyway, come to that understanding that the Great Spirit, the Creator, or what we call God, some people in the English language say God, that part of that spirit exists in all of us. And when we see another human being, another person, we should see that that spirit is in them too. So if we really understood that, how can you kill another person? How can you rape? How can you steal? You understand that you're not going to do that, because the teachings will give you discipline. Because as I said, as sure as the sun rises and the sun sets, we're all setting one day. None of us are getting out of here alive. And that son, we call him an older brother because he teaches us. And as I said, one day when I die, I'm going back into the womb of my mother. But tomorrow, the sun is going to rise up again for my daughters, and I'm going to rise up again, but not in flesh, but in spirit. And when we go back home to the Great Spirit, we don't really know what's going to happen. So all we say then is we give it the benefit of the doubt and we say, let's be good to each other. Let's be nice to each other. Let's try to pick each other up. Let's try to love this gift of creation that was given to us. And let's be thinking too of those future generations that are coming, the unborn nation, so that those little babies, when they will be born, that they will inherit a happy, safe, clean, beautiful, peaceful, loving home. And when we look at what's been happening, somebody is not looking for the welfare of the future generations, because we have all these problems now. Air pollution, water pollution, land pollution. And we have to rise up. And the only way we can rise up is through knowledge. Give knowledge to people and let them drink, because you can't force anything on anybody. People have to make up their own mind and say, you know what? I want to learn more about that. I want to drink that knowledge that you're giving me. So when they drink that knowledge and they take it to heart, it changes the mind. And when the mind changes, then it changes how you think, how you speak, and what you're going to do. So our hope, most of us that work with ceremonies, that work with our sacred ways of knowing, that's always the hope, that we get to this place, that we can empower people to rise up. If they're suffering, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If it's addictions, any kind of challenge, we can rise up and we can overcome it. Just like if there's darkness and all of a sudden you put out that switch and the light comes on, light will always overcome darkness. That's just natural law. So what we do then is we try to enlighten each other. And we say that whatever it is that you're struggling with, you can always rise above. You're never going to eliminate it, because when we come to this lower world, those two forces are here, just like day and night. They're paired opposites. And what we have to do as much as possible is to walk in that middle, to be at peace, to be in harmony, to understand those two energies, respect it, and walk. Sometimes you'll hear them, they refer to that as the good red road. But it's a good road for anybody that wants to just be in balance, in equilibrium. So yeah. So the other thing maybe that I would talk about is a little bit about our peacemaker. Who was he? Well, in our oral tradition, the history talks about there was a time when our people, and especially the men, they forgot about this knowledge and these teachings. And they started making war with each other. They were killing each other. It says that the women were all troubled, and their minds was not at ease, and the children was suffering because of all of this war. And then it talks about that there was this messenger that came. And it talks that he had a virgin birth too. And what he did as this little boy when he was growing up, he worked with the young kids his age. And what they did was they began to show the older adults that a lot of these things that they were doing was not right. And the first people that he impacted on was his grandmother. Well, first of all, his mother, because his mother didn't know how she conceived, and then his grandmother. And then when he becomes a young man and he leaves and he meets a woman, and later she's going to become one of the first clan mothers that when he establishes our, for lack of a better word, our government, he's going to use her as the leading role model about women. So when we understand about the role of women, the first thing that all of us men have to understand is we come out of the sacred vessel of women. So even in our creation story, it talks about the role that women played, and it all makes sense because it's consistent with how we get here. We all come out of the sacred vessel of women. So then we have respect for women, we have respect for our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts, our sisters. So it says when these little boys grow up, if they have these qualities, that's what they're going to be looking for when they're going to put them in a leadership position. And at the time, it says that our men, their minds was so twisted that even some of them were resorting to acts of cannibalism. And I remember when I first heard that story, I said, how could that happen? It doesn't seem possible that men would do that they would literally kill another person and then eat them. But I remember in 1994 in the state of Wisconsin, I came back from school being a school teacher and I turned on the TV And in Wisconsin, there was a cannibal in my lifetime. So they did interviews with him and they were trying to understand what could have gone wrong with his thinking and thought processes. Was he sexually abused as a boy? Was he really, um, you know, abused and all this different kind of stuff to try to find out how could that happen? And now getting back to our story, when this messenger came, so he came to our people, where we call ourselves Radinyak Gahaga. We are the people of the flint stone, because in our territory there was a lot of flintstone. And it says that when he came there, the first thing that the headmen wanted to do is they wanted to, use their stone hatchets and club his head in. But he proved to them that he was carrying some pretty powerful ways of doing things that you would say was beyond the normal realm. Anyways, eventually the Mohawks accepted his peace proposal. And then they went from the Mohawks to the Oneidas, then the Cayuga, and then the Seneca. And then they came back now to his territory. And it's in the Onondaga territory. And this individual, they called him Adodarho. And then because he was a cannibalism, he was a warlord. It says that his penis was deformed, that he carried it over his shoulder. So he would rape women. And then this messenger that came, this peacemaker, we call him, he says, the last person we're going to go to is this wizard, because it even kind of says that his brain was so twisted that it looks like he had snakes living in his hair. And what they did was they came with love. They came with ceremony. They came with a song. And as they started to approach him, and even though he had all of this anger and this hatred and what have you, he was overpowered with ceremony. He was overpowered with love. He was overpowered with peace. He was overpowered with forgiveness. And his mind changed. And the peacemaker showed him pure, unconditional love. Because what he said to him, he says, well, even though you are this way, because when he came to his senses, he said, the story says that he was on his knees and he was crying. All of that hurt, all of that pain that he inflicted on all of these people, he asked if there was any way that he could be pardoned or that he could be forgiven. And the peacemaker said, we're not going to throw you away. We'll give you a chance. We'll give you a chance. We're going to establish this union where all of us as men, as brothers, we're going to hold hands in a circle. And inside that circle, what we're going to do is we're going to uproot a tree. And all of these things that caused all of this problem, we're going to throw all of that in there. The weapons of war, the bad thoughts, the bad words. And when we bury that, all that negative energy, the earth, the currents, the water, the streams will dissipate that. And we're going to plant this tree again. And we're going to plant it in your territory, Adodarho. And that's where this great tree will grow. And from that tree, there will be white roots. And the roots will go to the north, to the east, to the west, and to the south. And I like to say it in that order because it spells news. And what it was the good news. And the good news was that hatred and division is now going to be replaced with love and unity. And if we have a conflict or a problem, we're going to use our words to fix it. And then that's when he brought in the women. And the women now are the ones who are going to put those deer antlers on the chiefs. And the women are going to watch these men. And if the men do not have the characters, the characteristics, the values, the love, the compassion for the people, then the women will go and they will take that man out of his position of leadership. Because you can't have that. And in our language, this constitution that we have, we call it Ga Yanade Goa. Yanade means something that is nice. Yo Yanade. When we add Goa to it, it makes it huge. So we're talking about this great niceness that the chiefs, the clan mothers, because they're the leader, they're the role models. So just like a family, a mother and father, you'll be nice to each other, you'll be nice to your kids. So your kids, they grow up understanding love, they understand peace. But if there's all kind of conflict and problem and all of that, then hurt people hurt people. But our constitution, our government, our great law is based on peace. It's based on niceness. And even the word that we have for our chief, Royane, comes from the root word Yoyanere. Because the chiefs are supposed to be exemplifying that great niceness. And in order to do that, it says you're going to have skin that is really thick. They say it has to be 7 thumbs thick, so that if the people shoot their sharp words at you, that you're not going to take it and react. Because the leadership always has to have restraint. You can't get mad, you can't get angry, because you're a chief. Why? Because you're just like a mother and a father to the people. So they're your children. So you listen to your children and you work together. That's what our government and our chiefs talk about. And I think if the whole world understood that way, there would be peace in the world. Everybody would be able to have all of their needs met, because when we're born and we come into this world, there's always enough for everybody. But so much money gets spent in armaments, making, all kind of money being spent to go to war. And we should really stop now and think and ask ourselves, we have all of this technology, we have all of this knowledge. Why can't we start now talking about peace, peace, peace? Think peace, be peace, love peace. And even in our language, when we meet each other, we're supposed to say, Kwe kwe, segu, skana gowaga. And it actually means, that's the greeting that our people did, and it all goes back to this story. So segu means more of something. Skana is peace. And when you put the ga, it makes it a question. So when we meet each other, we say to each other, is your mind still of the great peace? Because we knew what it was like when there was no peace. So even when we greet each other and we say, Kwe kwe, segu skana gowaga, we're asking, is your mind still of that great peace? Anyways, it's 7:30 now. So we're going to stop there. And at 7:45, we're going to come back with Roberto. So everybody take a little 15-minute stretch. And we'll see you in a little bit. Welcome back, everybody. So we were listening previously to Marco, and then now we're going to turn it over to Roberto for his presentation, and part of it will also include a PowerPoint. So welcome back, everyone. Thank you.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Sí. Muy buenas tardes, muy buenas noches a todos aquellos que nos escuchan. Estamos acá desde la Ciudad de México. Mi nombre es Roberto Macuilmaza.
My name is Roberto Pacuilmaza from the nation, the Noshka nation. So we have this opportunity to talk about all these things that have been transmitted throughout time. And as our ways tell us, we'll begin first with a salutation. So we first salutate the Tlahuitztlampa, the Orient, where the baby is born, the one who gives us warmth and light. This is the destination where the sun comes from. And we start turning to the left to greet now the Cihuatlampa, which is the west. From this point, we salutate the chief Chipetote, our chief of change of skin. We greet with the smoke of the copal, with the feathers, with the tobacco. We keep on spinning to this direction as they taught us. And we keep on spinning again to the left to go towards Mictlampa, the north. In this direction, we have our noble Senior Tezcatlipoca, the biggest smoking mirror. Towards this direction, we also go to, and we ask permission to begin our ways of working to transmit knowledge through the word. We keep on spinning once again to the left, always to the left. This is the opposite direction to the clockwork. They always spin to the right, but we spin in the opposite side, to the left. In this way, Earth spins itself. It spins to the left. And we keep on spinning to go towards the Huitzlampa, the south. Over there, we have another noble senior, Huitzilopochtli, the master of will. So we head towards there and we ask for permission to share our knowledge, the knowledge of our elders. We keep on spinning, again to the left. Now this time, above, to the Omeyocan. This is the place of duality of Ometeotl. This is the duality senior and the duality lady. Ometeotl and Omecihuatl, the dualities. So we ask for permission to begin these works. This is our way to make this ceremony, to offer the nourishment, the flowers, the tobacco, the fruit. And we keep on spinning once again to the left. We go this time to the earth. So we put our palms close to the earth. We touch it, we feel it. We caress Mother Earth, asking for forgiveness for all the harm we do to her, because we hurt her. But we also thank her because she gives us all our nourishment, every flower, every single day of life. And in that direction, in that Chihuanapamictlan, where the dead lay, where all the deceased ones, we offered these works, this work to our Lord Mictlantecutli, the Lord of the Dead, to Misihuatl, also the Lady of the place of the dead, as well to Xochitlalpa, the earth with flowers, the place where we walk, where we move, where we are born, where we grow up. And someday we'll eventually die, where we also leave behind a hair, a lineage. And in this way, it is how we ask for permission. So in this way, we stand up and we are thankful for today to be able to share. Now, we're going to give you the date in our ways. So we belong to the Amoshkalije, the cult, which is the house of the owl number 3.
Hoy,
Estamos en el año de 9 casas, el día de las lluvias. Today we are in the year of the 9 houses, 2021, 2022, of the also about the health of the earth, because Tlawitl is the rain that gives nourishment to the earth. Tlaloc means the nourishment, the sweet nourishment to the earth, the nourishment of love that's given by the fruits. Then that's what rain represents for earth, a candy. This set of 20 that we are living, it's coming to an end tomorrow because we have cycles of 20. We're about to see this. This set of 20, it's known as the 20th of the dry things that have dried up, and they will start getting moist, wet with the rain. Precisely, we're beginning a set of 13. With this cycle of conferences, this new set of 13 has begun yesterday.
también los Kanienquejac, que son los hombres del pedernal.
We are referring to the men of the stone. This hair comes from the north, from the south, from the set of the 13th, the set of the stones. It will be active, they'll have movement. And this is what comes to us. This is how we begin to tell us everything that's been left for us. You will see soon in the next slide something that is known as the Aztec calendar, at least colloquially. This is the Aztec calendar. This one has colors, it's full of life, full of force. It's been designed like that. This big monolith has a stone. It weighs close to 25 tons. It was made without a hammer, without the required tools. Its shape was made. You have to come and visit for sure here at the Museum of Anthropology in Chapultepec. to get to see it by yourselves. You can also find it in the internet. You'll see this image too. But this figure that represents evolution of the universe, this that you see here is the photo of the Big Bang itself. This is the Big Bang from the viewpoint of the people from Teotihuacan. This is their legacy. So they've been here in Mexico for ever since the year 3000 before Christ. And the culture came down 700 years after Christ's era. So this tells us how the time itself was born, how the sun and the planets were made, how humankind was made, how life itself was born through this great monolith we're going to describe. From the center, we're going to keep on going outwards to look at each element, each figure that is represented, the origin of life itself. And in this way, we have a center here. As we move around here, this figure, this represents the face of the earth. When the earth was
costado de los ojos.
an
Eso
elder itself
representa
of its old age, around its eyes. It represents its old age, its long time. We'll just go a bit closer so that you can appreciate each one of these details in this image. So these are somewhat wrinkles that represent the old age of Earth. Now we go to the mouth, and there's this item coming out of its tongue. Yeah, this is a symbol.
A Tezcatlipoca.
This symbol represents itself Tezcatlipoca. Tezcatlipoca is the symbol of human consciousness. It represents time and space. It's the memory where we keep all our memories. So the tongue comes out of its mouth because it's about to speak. Memory itself, it's about to speak along with all our memories. And this is also touching these precious stones just below. You can see it here. These are precious stones. They are here described. They represent the suns. If you look at the image, here we have precious stones like turquoise, really precious, extremely precious for the Nahuatl people. Turquoise. And then we have red stones. They represent the suns. This is our memory. In a necklace is like a book. This is how we keep. We also have this geometrical figure that is combined. This is a square that combines with the circle made of cloth. This represents sun itself. It's a 360-degree circle. It represents the masculine. The square represents all the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. It represents Quetzalcoatl, Chipisotl, Tezcatlipoca, and Huitzilopochtli. This is one of the books where we keep our knowledge. It makes us itself the keepers of this knowledge. So we must remember that a lot of people was killed in the north, in the south, in the center, because of everything that they kept. Everyone who kept all these colorful stones, because these colorful stones that you see here, they're symbols. They represent, with the blue one, it represents Huitzilopochtli. With the yellow stone, Quetzalcoatl is represented. With the green one,
yo represento a ver, aquí tenemos a Quetzalcóatl, Huitzilopochtli.
Quetzalcoatl, Huitzilopochtli, Xipetotla is it's represented in the red one. Black, also the tip of an arrow is obsidian. This is how we symbolize the north. This is all geometrical figures that comes together little by little. Then here you're able to see an evolution of Earth itself. With the tongue touching all these precious stones, touching history, life. On this side we have a sun. It's a really, really old sun, millions and millions of years old. We're gonna jump to another slide to be able to compare, even scientifically. Even scientists themselves have confirmed this ancestral knowledge. This is something that we're missing. We need to learn to share this knowledge, to combine ancestral knowledge with scientific modern knowledge. What modern scientific knowledge, it's been certifying things that we already knew. Through science, we can certify this knowledge. This part that you're seeing here is the first sun. Its name. There's numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Rain. It represents rain. Fire used to rain on Earth. This is the first age, the first sun. The second sun, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a Jaguar. This is when Earth starts cooling down. Volcanoes are cooling down too. Each of the spots in the Jaguar is a volcano that is cooling off, cooling down. It's changing its tone, its colors. So the Jaguar itself begins the transformation. This is the second sun. We go to the third sun. Its name is Naguihekaki. This third sun, planet Earth transforms because it starts producing a series of gases that combine along with liquids to the point of integration till we have water itself, H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. And this is how we have liquid during the third sun. Naguihekaki, the third sun. It will bring evolution into the fourth sun. This is Naui. This represents 4 waters. Let me just show you next. There is this comparison we want to work here. Really interesting to look at. What we're doing over here is to allow people to learn what we have been working with for the longest time. So in this chart, we have a chronology of evolution of planet Earth. This is taken from an ancient book called the Chimalpopoca Codex, written in 1558. This is where our history is registered. This has a historical fundament. This is our first sun that I was telling you about. This is the name of the first sun, Nahuicuahuitl. It means four rains. Another name of it is Tletonatiu, and it means a son of fire. This is the first sun. This is basically the way planet Earth looked like. It looked like a tomato, like a red, colorful tomato. It was just fire. It was a burning. This is what modern biology calls the Azoic era. This happened 4,600 million years ago. 4,600 millions of years, and it looked like a tomato. Then next we have the second sun. That's what followed. Its name is Nahui Ocelotl. It means 4 jaguars or ocelotls. Another name is Tlatonatiu, which means the sun made of earth. And during this sun, it looked more like a tortilla. In Nahuatl, we call tortillas tlaxcali. It looked like this. If you look at this tortilla, it has all these spots. This is how planet Earth began its transformation. This is the way it looked. Its surface looked like this, Mother Earth surface. And this time is known as the primary era. The Paleozoic, which happened 570 million years ago. This is how Earth looked like then. Then we move forward to the third sun. It keeps transforming itself. This is the first sun, remember? Fire, rain made of fire. During the second sun, it transforms itself. And as we go into the third one, its name is Nahui Ehecatl. It means 4 winds, 4 gases, also known as Ehecatonati, which is the sun made of air. It means chon. It means carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. This time is known as the secondary era, as what we know as the Precambric. Planet Earth had emissions of gases. And this is what it allows these gases to combine itself and produce water. And from here on, we go into the fourth sun, which is known as Nahui Atli, which means 4 waters. Also Atonatiu. This sun is made of water. This is during the Cambrian period. This is the next stage of 64 million years or 64 million years ago. This is when we first see the first unicellular organisms that live in water, and this is where life originates from. we move on into the fifth sun, known as Nawi Oji, which means four movements, or also Olintonatu, which is sun made of life. During this fifth sun, which is known within modern biology, known as the Quaternary era, or the Anthropozoic. So this happened around 2 million years ago. This is when the first primitive forms of life appeared, even when human life began, when humans first walked on Earth. And then after this, we have the sixth sun. This is our current period. During this sixth sun, we know it as Naui Cuautli, which is known as, it means 4 eagles. This year is the time of the six suns, our contemporary age. 2021 for us. This is just a simple commentary on modern science in relation with our ancestral science and knowledge. Once again, here we have a representation of the suns, Earth in the middle, its face, telling its story. This is how history itself is composed. This is a conceptual and map, a mental map, but it's really ancient. This is the chronology of our evolution as humans on Earth. The first sun, the second sun, the third sun, and the fourth sun. And all of them together are called Nawi Olin. This is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And the whole thing is Nawi Olin. These elements together, the origin of life, human life on planet Earth. Here we have on the top the 20 signs known as tonales. We go to another slide so that you can see clearly. These figures, they have all these colors. And then we begin. This is the first one. What you see here are the 20 signs of the calendar, or the way we count time for Nahuatl and Tolteca peoples. So this first one that you see here, its name is Zipatli, the crocodile. This is the first being that comes from water. Crocodile emerges, evolves, and it transforms into many other shapes and forms of life, the crocodile. And we go to a Hecate. This is air itself, oxygen that we breathe. Next one is Kali, the house where people live, represents evolution and knowledge, science. Next one is Quetzalcoatl, the lizard. It represents emotions, all the visceral emotions and growth. It's followed by Coatl, the snake. For us, it represents wisdom and knowledge, but also the energy of sun itself, energy of water too. The next one is Mikistli, dead, the dead, transformation, renovation, transmutation, Mikistli. Next one is the deer, Mazatl, the deer. And the deer for us represents, this is the symbol of the sun, represents light and knowledge, beauty as well. This is how we understand the deer. It comes next, Toshli, the rabbit. It represents fertility, knowledge, what's abundant. It also represents the moon. When we look at the moon, we look inside the moon and we see a rabbit. The next one is Atl, or water. This water is the water in the rivers, in the lagoons, in the lakes, inside earth, outside earth. This is water. It represents life. I'm not sure if you're able to see this image, but the symbol of water, it's a book. This is a book where all our knowledge is written. Water has within shells and bubbles. They have its own meaning too. Next we go to Itzcuintli. This means the dog of obsidian. Dog represents loyalty. This represents also the best known warriors just after the eagle warriors and the jaguar warriors. We have the lineage of the dog warriors, the Otomi peoples, with a lineage of really big, great warriors. We go next into Osomatli, the monkey. It represents science and knowledge. We go into Malinali, which is the wheat, the vine. It feeds us. It's also beautiful and decorative. It holds a lot of power. It plants with strong powers, hallucinations. We go next into the cane. This represents, is part of our symbology from Anahuac. It means number 4. It's a set of 4. Next one here, this is the jaguar, or ocelotl. It represents a great lineage of guardians of the peoples. For example, within amongst the Mayans, it is the Balam. It means represents the protection, the teacher, the priest. We go into the next one, Cuautli. Cuautli is the eagle. The eagle looking for the sun, looking for open spaces, flies in the heights. This is its own evolution. We go into Cuautli. This is a different type of eagle, an eagle with a necklace, or a vulture. It cleans the fields, it eats all the carcass, everything that's dead, so that it doesn't contaminate. It is a cleaner, it cleans the fields. This is due to its duty. That's how it controls contamination. And this is how it goes, the cycle of evolution. Everything is a book. The next one here is Oli. It represents movement, vibration, frequencies, everything that moves, that spins. It's in itself the word universe. We sometimes pronounce the word universe, but we don't even know what it is. The word universe has 2 roots. The first part, uni, and verse, that refers to the spinning. It means everything that spins. We go into this symbol, Tepetl, which means Tezcatlipoca, and it represents the memory. The next one is Cuahuitl, the rain, the emotions, the tears. We're going to Xochitl, and this is the last one of the 20. Xochitl is the flower, the symbol
el símbolo del crecimiento.
of growth. For example, when we say fruit, we say xochicuale. It means a good flower. That's how we call a fruit, because we know that when a flower is born, what comes after is the fruit. These things are simple, but we don't realize fully. Therefore, this is how we should learn
Es
to
observador.
observe carefully. Everyone who knows how to observe, to look carefully, it's a scientific person. It's able to look, to observe. It's able to certify. It's not an invention. It's not making things up, coming from nothing. It's starting from laws from science. And this is how we can certify through the scientific method. In this way, this is how we understand evolution of Earth, of the universe, and life on Earth. This is why sometimes it's hard to understand when we hear that ancient peoples knew already the evolution of Earth. They were aware already of the evolution of the sun, of other planets. They were aware. They had the knowledge already. They could predict, which is not particularly correct, but they knew things. They were aware of all these events, eclipses from the moon and the sun. They knew this already. Unfortunately, barbaric invaders, they didn't have the patience, the ability to understand, to learn. Otherwise, they would have learned way much more about the world, would have helped them understand. In a way, nowadays, today, we are lagging behind. Both Europeans and indigenous peoples remember that scientifically,
1940 dieron a conocer la teoría de la expansión del universo y del Big Bang.
Expansion of the universe was first thought.
Cuando nuestros abuelos, en el año 600 después de Cristo, ya lo sabían, ya lo conocían. Hoy, gracias a estos conocimientos, sabemos que el planeta Tierra tenía 2 soles. Aquí lo que ustedes están viendo es una fotografía del Big Bang, cómo nace, cómo revienta y cómo se expande, cómo crece. Y entonces aquí nos está diciendo que el planeta Tierra era un sol. Y había un sol, eran 2 soles. Y cuando nace la Tierra, para crear los soles, también otra vez nos vuelven a contar la historia que el planeta Tierra también tuvo 2 soles, es decir, que los 2 soles más la Tierra son 3 soles. Son 3 soles que estaban en el sistema solar. Entonces, el primer sol, el segundo sol y el tercer sol va a ser el sol que va a ser la luna, ¿no? Entonces, aquí es como va evolucionando el sol.
I do apologize to interrupt, but it appears our translator has had a loss of connection. Can you just un momento? s'il vous plaît, please. Just give us a second here and we'll see if we can figure something else out. Just un momento.
Ajá, sí. Muy bien.
Sorry, but we can proceed. Go ahead. Adelante, Roberto.
Bien. Sale pues, continuamos. Después de unos comerciales de nuestros patrocinadores.
So we're going to continue after this advertisement from our patrons.
Entonces aquí tenemos los
Next,
soles.
we have the suns.
A ver, aquí tenemos aquí el primer sol que ya mencionamos.
This is the first sun, which is we already mentioned.
Aquí tenemos el segundo,
We have the second one.
el tercer sol
This is the third one,
y el cuarto sol.
and the fourth sun.
Entonces ya son imágenes más claras.
These images are clear now.
Entonces, esto es parte de lo que vamos aprendiendo aquí en
This is part
México.
of what we are learning. This is what we learn
Eh,
in Mexico
dentro de la danza azteca chichimeca.
within our dance, Azteca, Chichimeca dance.
Esto es lo que nosotros le llamamos el calendario
is-
azteca
What we call the Aztec calendar
o tonalmachío.
or Tonalmachillo.
Voy a pasarles a ustedes la carta que nos fue transmitida. Entonces, por favor, para que sea leída, ya está traducido aquí en inglés. Dice, entonces, pues aquí para que se las puedan leer, voy a guardar silencio
You
y
can read it by yourselves. I'll remain quiet for a bit. So go ahead.
Okay, we are ready to go with the setup for translation. It's fine again. So go ahead.
ya lo puedo subir.
Can I keep going?
It's all right. You can go.
Perfect. This is a greeted message, so we can just read it out.
Sorry, sorry, I just had to turn off the translation thing for a second. You guys can go ahead and let him know that we're set up for the translation again.
Okay.
So he's good to move ahead.
Okay. So Aaron, ¿me puedes escuchar? Can you
Sí,
hear
yo
me?
te
Okay.
escucho, sí.
So, Roberto, lo que necesita es que leas las partes en inglés de la carta.
Ok, perfecto.
Okay.
¿Me regreso?
Sí, por favor, maestro. Thank you, Joel. Thank you,
No
Aaron.
problem. 3, 2, 1.
The last consideration.
the virtues gathered over the years. It has distinctly original essence with words that possess the native energy and purpose as well as hopefulness. Podemos continuar.
Aquí tenemos la consigna de Anáhuac.
This is the consignment of Anáhuac in English. So we proceed. Last great message of the Venerable Council of Elders, their last mandate from the Venerable Descending Eagle. Year 3, the 3 houses, the 13 lizards, 20, when they offer flowers to each other, August 12, 1521. Podemos continuar. Our sacred natal energy has dinged and keep itself our sacred energy, has already worthily hidden its faces and in total darkness deigned to leave us. But certainly we know that again it will deign to return. That again it will deign to come out and again it will worthily come to illuminate us. As long as there among the dead that deigns to remain, just very quickly let us gather, let us congregate, and at the same time, in the midst of our venerable heart and our life, let us hide everything that our hearts deigns to leave us. Let us hide all that our venerable heart loves and we know is our great cultural wealth. It is in us as a great sunshine, as great precious stone, as a great emerald. Let us make disappear like smoke those which are our sacred places and closures of energy, our noble row houses of high studies of Tlamatimime, the houses of Ipalnemowani, giver of life, of Tloke Nawake, owner of the near and near, of Moyokoyani, he who invents himself, from Ometiotzin, venerable cosmic dual principle. Our venerable houses of all game and of astronomy, of mathematics, and of sacred celestial geometry, which are our sacred houses of the stars. Those that are our respectful houses of the young warriors, the portentous, the houses of weeping and striving, our most precious houses of flowery songs and dance, of emotions and spirit, of poetry and oratory, of the great noble house of Toltec culture, society, and philosophy. May those who are our worthy paths remain alone, and may our homes preserve us until he deigns to rise our new sun. In the meantime, may the venerable fathers of the venerable and the venerable mothers never forget to tell them, to educate those who are their youth and to teach their children. The daddies with the boys, the mommies with the girls, as long as they deign to live well, that they teach them precisely how good our venerable Mother Earth of Anáhuac has been up to now. Where our sacred and venerated essences take care of us by their will, their desire and their help, and only because of our respect for them and our humility before them, who received our revered ancestors, who received our revered grandparents and our revered parents. On one side, now we worthily hand over the task to our beloved children, that they do not forget that they inform their children intensely how the elevation will be, how we, our venerable son, our sacred natal energy will rise again, and precisely how we'll worthily show his strength, precisely how we will be good enough to grandly complete his worthy promise, this our revered and beloved Mother Earth of Anáhuac. Listo.
Enseguida tenemos otra consigna.
This is another message
Nos dejan.
that was left to us,
Si pensamos esa parte de nuestro venerable abuelo Cuauhtémoc,
and we think our venerable elder Cuauhtémoc,
se los paso, aquí lo tengo en
as
náhuatl
it
y español.
told.
A continuación se los voy a poner en náhuatl en inglés.
Now we have an English translation from Nahuatl. Anáhuac, it's matriarch chant. Our venerable grandfather Cuauhtémoc told the Nocas. Our son again will come to enlighten us. Anáhuac will emerge to strengthen itself in us. Adelante. Continuamos. Until then, it is required that our homes guard us, preserve us. It is required that we all have hope, because we are Ometeotl. We are all blue Hikar. We are all the earth. We are all the water. We are all the wind. We are all the fire. Today, our Mother Earth again so emerges. We are all strong again. Adelante. Already our sacred natal energy once again illuminates us. Our luminous rope between us shines brightly. Our word is heard in the center of Tlatocan. We all work to live in abundance. The masters within will all calm down. They are already waiting for all our young people. Live, live, live Anáhuac. Live, live, live Anáhuac. Entirely, Anáhuac lived. Anáhuac lives. Anáhuac will live. Long live Anáhuac. Adelante.
Bueno, pues esa es parte de la consigna.
So this is part of the message that was left by the last Tlatoani, the defender of Anáhuac. Next, I'm going to show you this evening through WhatsApp. I'll make this document available on PDF if anyone is interested. So it's also shared with our brothers from the north, so that they learn this last message from our last Tlatoani, defender of Anáhuac, as he was a great defender of indigenous peoples. Despite his young age, we think he must have been around 20 or 21 years old. And he faced these sick people, sick of greed, people with dysfunctional brains, because only with a dysfunctional brain you could have destroyed an entire people, disappear many people. We know now that almost 70% of the population of the continent was diminished by war, by famine, by these tiring works that they were forced to do, exploitation, brutal, despite the fact that they mentioned that they told them they had the one and only God, zealous and jealous God, a God that ended up betraying, unable to give love, despite the fact that we had many priests that learned a few of these ancient ways from Anáhuac. They should have become great men of wisdom. We have people like Bernardino de Sahagún, Francisco de Landa. We have a series of historical figures that remain silent, as Fray Bartolomé de las Casas. He was a great defender of indigenous peoples. And today we have to remember them because they did great service. They rescued, in a way, to the point that I've been informed that they will have a ceremony, a feast, to acknowledge Gonzalo Guerrero, which is one of the first Europeans that had a son of mixed descent, of Anáhuac descent. And we will have big ceremonies in central Mexico also, as well as in the south, recognizing Gonzalo Guerrero as a great warrior and defender of indigenous peoples. So we would have to do a series of things through the time, make a list of all these characters, historical figures that have been forgotten, but they have represented
Dentro de los
the
tlaxcaltecas tenemos que
indigenous cause, its banner. Within the Tlaxcaltecas, we have to rescue some of these figures. We have to rescue Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz because she wrote a letter, because it's known as, I hope you have the opportunity to read this letter. You can download it from the internet. This is the Atenagórica letter from Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, which is a letter really extensive, written in 1690. 1690. And in one of the paragraphs of this letter, it is mentioned just this very fact, which demythifies all the theories of the Vatican back in the day. That's why she was punished in such a way. She died of sadness because all her tools to write pen's paper was removed. She was a wise woman. She was una tlamatilime. And she was dispossessed of her documents. But in that paragraph, she clearly states, God gave a letter of freedom to all men. This is the clear evidence. God gave all men a letter of liberty. So no slavery. She came even before San Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla. He promulgated, he prohibits slavery, but this happens till 1810. Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz does this in 1690. And she's a great defender of indigenous peoples that has to be considered. Her name should be up in all the governmental buildings, the lower and higher chamber. Characters like Gonzalo Guerrero, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, Chicotenco the Young, Moctezuma should be there, Xocoyotzin, Pitláhuac should be there, Cuauhtémoc should be there. This is all part of what they achieved through the defense of the indigenous peoples, the original peoples, autochthonous people. This is part of our history, legacy that our elders share with us. So we're gonna look at these images now. This is what we've been talking about. This is the 4 directions to the above, the north, below, to the left. This is the north actually, the black one, and blue is actually the south. And these symbols are taken from nature itself. They're taken from the representations of the universe. Just look, see yourselves and compare. This is a galaxy. This is a galaxy where we see this great spiral. And this spiral, it's also within the symbol. This is known the Codex Magliavecchi Codex, and this is the great spiral. We can also see and find this spiral it's found within this seashell. Also, it's contained within flowers, on the crown of our head. But you can see here, this is the same spiral. When we are born, when we are created, we are in a special position, a fetal position. But this position resembles an spiral too. So we were in a spiral, a small spiral that started unraveling to the point where we are now what we are, human beings, developed. In this way is how we learn our ways. And we know as well that within the measure, the count of time, we find the different gods everywhere. There's no better way to remember them every year, every single month, every week, every day, every hour. And then they are contained within each, all the gods. They are kept waiting every day for us to remember them, so that we make offerings to them from the time that we wake up and we salute the sun. We are already greeting the sun god, the one who gives us warmth and nourishment. Because when Europeans arrived, these invaders, when they first arrived, so then they have a stick representing Christ. So they're holding it like this. Look at this. This is the God. The God is here. So imagine what the originals thought at the time. They were surprised, somewhat marveled. Is that your God? Is that your God and you're carrying it, full of blood, hurt? The nails, that's your God? So he was not able to defend himself. How is he supposed to defend us? Just imagine all these Spaniards with ignorance, surprised. So then when Europeans tell the originals, who's your God? Just imagine the faces of the people. We have a God that comes up, rises every morning. It's a God that illuminates us. It's a God that provides us warmth. And we know that he will come every single day. It's not going to fail us. That's the sun, and it's reborn every single day. That's our God. And that God will never leave us. He will continue and will give us light and warmth to our children. He nourishes the earth, nourishes the plants, nourishes every single human. And we have other gods as well, like the water, and he gives us that liquid. We know that within water, there's the memory of our elders, because water has a memory of its own. Ourselves, we are water. And the wind, that's the breath of our elders. The breathing of everyone that is with us, as well as the dead. The generational breath within wind. Wind is alive. It beats. It's here with us every day. And Mother Earth, it nourishes plants, the animals, and then we proceed to nourish all of them, plants and animals. That's how we nourish ourselves. These are living gods. That's why we sing, and we sing again, and we make ceremonies, and we dance to the moon, to the sun, to the earth, to our elders, to the dead ones, to happiness, and we sing and sing. I'll proceed with this brief song. My wife is going to share a song. She really wants to sing for us. She wants to share this chant that she herself made. But first, I'll sing something that you already know, and it's about the 4 cardinal points. This is going to be brief, that some of you know already, because it's the memory, because it's remembrance of where we come from, where we go to, where we come from.
Cuerpo, agua mi sangre, tierra mi cuerpo, aire mi sangre. Perdón, es que estoy desentonado.
Sorry, I'm out of tune, a little bit out of tune. Again.
Tierra mi cuerpo, agua mi sangre, aire mi aliento y fuego mi espíritu. Tlalino nakayot, atl no eso, ejeca no hijillo, iguantle no tona. Nosotros somos esa memoria.
We are that memory. We are the earth, the wind, water, and we are the fire. So we take everything from these gods. Everyone else are our older brothers, younger brothers. In this way is how we share our life and our existence. This is how we find our gods of all time. We find them in the years because they are dedicated to each of them. We have 52 years, which is a cycle that repeats itself, but within each year, there's divine entities, sacred entities. Then we have the sets of 20, the cycles of 20 days, Sempowaliwis. Within each set of 20 days, we celebrate an entity that represents that month of 20 days. Then what follows is the cycle of 13 days, the cycle of 13. So that's what we were talking about in the beginning. So we just began a first set of 13. These are the days of the week. Tomorrow will be a flower. Tomorrow, Saturday, we'll have a beautiful and flowery day, the day of the flowers. Then Sunday, it'll be Nawi Sipatli, which means 4 crocodiles. This is how we count time. We find the gods within each day. For example, today is a day of 2 rains, so we celebrate Tonatiuh, the sun and the warmth that's provided. In Mexico City, it has rained today. It's raining. Tomorrow, which is a flower, is dedicated to Xochiquetzal, the goddess of flowers. So with your permission, I'm going to share my screen, or so my wife is able to sing this song for you. She is the author of this chant, so we share it with you so that you may learn it if you want, so that you can also propagate it. So she's coming next with us, and she's going to sing for us.
Ometeo.
Ometeo. My name is Imelda Rojo, and from the depth of my heart, I will sing this song that I once made, thanking for life protection, all of these beings that provide that for us. The name of the song is One Single Heart. And it goes like this.
Seamos uno en sentimiento, seamos uno en el amor, seamos uno en la alegría y estallemos en un solo corazón. Oh, ah, oh, oh, ah, oh, ah. Oh, gran espíritu, te ofrezco mi amor. Oh, gran espíritu, yo canto en tu honor. Enséñame el camino de la paz y la luz. Dame tu mano y hagamos la unión. Oh, ah, oh, oh, ah, oh, ah. Oh, ah, oh, ah, oh. Seamos dos en un camino, seamos una vida en dos, seamos uno en la alegría y estallemos en un solo corazón. Oh, ah, oh, oh, ah, oh, ah. Oh, gran espíritu, te ofrezco mi amor. Oh, gran espíritu, yo canto en tu honor. Enséñame el camino de la paz y la luz. Dame tu mano y hagamos la unión. Oh, ah, oh, oh, ah, oh, ah. Oh, ah, oh, ay, oh. Un solo corazón. Ometeo.
A single heart. Ometeotl. Thank you.
Bueno, pues esa es nuestra ofrenda.
So this is our offering to the great spirits
Que nos dieron la oportunidad
that gave us the opportunity
en esta plática, en esta
to be
conferencia.
here with you in this conference.
Y pues algo que es importante
Something that's important to God
es esa parte de entender el propósito de esta charla, pues
is to understand
los
the objective of this talk is to
profetas de todos los
learn about
tiempos,
prophecies,
de todos los
the prophets of all
de
times,
todas las naciones, de todo el
of
mundo,
all
han
nations
sido soñadores.
around the world have been dreamers.
Toda la gente tiene la oportunidad de soñar,
Everyone has the ability to
pero
dream.
tiene la oportunidad de ver ese futuro.
They also have the opportunity to see the future.
Los soñadores tenemos la oportunidad de tener sueños.
Sometimes dreamers have the opportunity to have nice dreams, something that sweeps you off your feet, something that generates angst.
Que no quisiéramos verlas.
Sometimes we see things that we don't like to see, that we wouldn't like to live through.
Los tiempos que se están dando.
These are the current times that we are living in. These times are transforming and changing the world. This disease that just began, although some people still denies it, but we have lived through it and we were able to defeat it. But there was a lot of people that were not able to make it through. So what's coming next? What's the prophecy from the core of the Anahuac to the world? What is it? We have a lot of work. The peoples that carry the ancestral forms, we have a big deal of work. We have a lot ahead. Fortunately, a lot of these people, these collectives that you guys are working on, I feel really fortunate that you have invited me. I feel motivated. For me, it's a recognition that I've been invited. The lineages that are here with us. Sometimes we're just simple feathers amongst many of you. We have a lot of work. We have to break through walls of ego that they keep growing. The youth, they are growing in isolation within these walls, not only in Mexico. We see this portrayed all over the world. We don't have a lot to defend because we are unaware of our forms, traditions. I had a dream. I asked for this dream to be able to tell you. This happened when I was in Tula, where the Toltecs come from. In this dream, I saw that I was in a part of the city in the north. So I went to the north and I saw this big city from the distance. I finished doing whatever I was doing and I wanted to go back to my home. And I couldn't go back. I was not able to go back home. And I saw the faces of all these people with my same face. They were afraid. We were all afraid because we couldn't make it back. We were walking around trying to get transportation and we would end up in the same place. We were enclosed within this labyrinth, confined labyrinth. And this labyrinth are these new instruments that have been given to us and we don't know how to use. The cell phones. We used to see before here in Mexico that people used to read the newspapers. They would read magazines, books. We look around, and their whole world lives within their phones. We don't go out from Facebook, from WhatsApp, having so many other possibilities, so many books. So then we have to get to work to begin schools. The ancestral combined with the modern. This that I have just told you about the suns. On one side, the suns and modern biology. Ancestral knowledge is a real thing. We just haven't dedicated enough time to make it, to certify it, make it. This is scientific ancestral knowledge. Today we are sharing it, but we have a lot ahead. We have to break through people's egos. We have to go through collective conscience to go back to what's ours. But how do you think we'll be able to do this? We have to be educated. If there's people, men and women, with the awareness, we have to educate women in the first place. They are the first row in this army of education. Women are the first row, the first beings to receive the hardest hits that come from men generally. So we have to think of this. Men have to be aware to educate ourselves, to educate each other, so that women, men, we can educate the little children. But if women is not educated, the lineage is broken. The human lineage is broken. So we have to build these nations of women through education. As these chants and songs that we shared today, I hope that Carla is able to help us with the translation of these songs. We'll try to make it available in a PDF. So you know now the rhythm, you felt it. Now you can have the lyrics. This is how it sounds. This is the beat. So we have to keep on building the first schools, mainly for women that are able to carry through and educate men. Otherwise, this is not going to go through. We need to strengthen, empower, make warriors out of them in all senses, from our minds, our intellects, our spirits, energetically, physically, emotionally, strong and powerful women. I would like my wife to also come along and to share some of these concepts, because it's really important that the voice of women is heard. This is a dialogue. This is chat, discourse, a teaching. We are transmitting knowledge. So with your permission, my wife is going to tell us a little bit about the strength of the feminine, the empowerment of the vagina, of the matrix, the empowerment of the word, with your permission. Well, again, my name is Imelda Rojo. I consider that what my husband is saying is really important. I've always said that if us women, every single right has an obligation. The universe has given us the privilege of giving life. Facing such a privilege, we have an obligation, indeed, to educate the next generations, our children, even our husbands, to teach them, to teach men to be more sensible, to be in touch with their feelings, to love. indeed, a woman to be able to have this strength. She requires the love to give us the strength to be able to educate, the strength to be able to give everything that's implied in a woman as a wife, as a mother, as a citizen, as a worker as well. So I agree that all women have to be educated. We have to educate ourselves to pass it on to the next generations. And we have to have certainty in ourselves in every single aspects, learning about our bodies in all senses. To know oneself, to be able to carry on. This is the way I think. As women, we have an obligation because we bring life. Because if we do not provide education to our children and the next generations, they're going to have beings that are close to evil, with vices, with ambitions, not with love, with a high level of awareness, consciousness, that love everything that's divine within, everything that surrounds us, all the animals. From this beautiful place that we are today in women, let's educate ourselves and let's provide and give love. Let's teach how to love, so that love becomes the strength that leads us to survival, the survival of humankind. But of course, in the same way it's important, we have to invest our heart, but also our brains, our intelligence. Thank you for allowing me to express myself and share these words. Ometeo.
Bueno, pues esa es la parte importante.
This is a really important part, to be able to understand the aspect of education. As long as both of us are not in it, it's not going to work. We need to learn and to teach about duality, to participate, to be able to grow. If we don't, we'll be people full of disabilities. We have to train ourselves little by little. Thank you very much for your attention. The message that I just shared with you, the message of Cuauhtémoc, that was given on the 12th of August in 1521, and it was transmitted through the oral tradition through 500 years up to the date. We are able to write it now. Before it was prohibited. Fortunately, it was able to be transmitted orally, and now I shared with you through this meeting. It's going to be available on a PDF, so that you can keep on carrying it through, transmitting it, so that a new sun will enlighten us. But in the meantime, we must teach and educate our boys, our girls, the mothers with the daughters, fathers with the daughters, with the sons. How big has an Anáhuac been? And Anáhuac refers to the continent. It's not just a small geographical space. Anáhuac is Semanagua. It's everything that surrounds us. Anáhuac means the place surrounded by 4 waters. So we have the Atlantic, the Pacific Ocean, the Arctic Ocean, and the Antarctic Ocean. These are the 4 waters, the 4 oceans that surround us. This is Anáhuac, the place surrounded by water, the 4 waters. With your permission, we're going to proceed, and we have some incense to give a little offering to our guardians and protectors of the universe, the earth, of the cardinal points. We ask permission. We are thankful to the 4 directions. They have allowed us to make it this far. It has allowed us to share this word, sweet and full of love. We're gonna sound the seashell 4 times, each of the 4 directions. So we say thank you to the Tlahuitztapa, the Orient, the place of Quetzalcoatl.
Giramos por el lado izquierdo.
We go to the left, spin to the left, to Cihuatlampa, the place of women.
Giramos por la izquierda.
We keep turning to the left. Keep on turning to the left. We turn again to the left. Al Omeyoc, to the Omeyocan. Up above. Down to the earth.
Pues damos las gracias a los 4 rumbos por habernos permitido.
So we are thankful to the 4 directions for having allowed us the sound of the seashell, the symbol of Quetzalcoatl. That's why it's called in this fashion. We are thankful to being allowed to share our words. I'm at your orders. If there's any questions, any comments, here we are. Ometeo.
Así es. Adelante, Carla. Marcos.
Wow.
That
So I feel like I've had some spiritual drink that helped to lift up my soul, my spirit, with this ancient knowledge that you shared from Central America. So I want to acknowledge Marco, Roberto, your wife, for the song, for blowing the conch in the directions, and to all the people that are listening to us out there. You know, as was stated, we're in some crucial times, but in spite of the bleakness, you know, we just hope that some of this ancient indigenous knowledge and wisdom that comes from the Mother Earth, that comes from the Great Spirit and us as children of this universe, that we can feel good, that we can pick each other up, and that as much as possible, that we try to cultivate the love, the peace, the friendship, the joy, and that in our future days, that we sing and we be happy, and just to have the attitude of gratitude, because every day we had the opportunity to open our eyes. That was 2 gifts. And when we opened our eyes, we give thanks that we're here for another day. So with that, this is going to conclude. We're going to start again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And we'll be listening to Louise Hearn, Patricia Davis, Mona Polaka, Sherry Mitchell, Autumn Peltier, and Mary Deliri. So with that, I bid you all a good night, pleasant dreams, and looking forward to seeing you all together in peace, friendship, good health again. So with that, good night. Bye.